and allow the team members to direct those questions to Julie at the end. Thank you all for coming.
Probably at the top of your screen, it will say this meeting is being recorded. So I just want to bring that to your attention. You can click OK and that message will go away. So thank you very much for coming, ladies. We have in our national bylaws, we have the requirement for financial training for our financial officers. We've asked the chapter presidents to sit in. We've invited all of the membership to be here because offices change. People may not be as a financial officer right now, but they may in the future, and this gives them a good introduction to it. Also, just as members, you would know what your chapter financial officers are tasked with. So we're going to delve into it. I gave you a lot of handouts with your Zoom invite today. And the main thing we asked you to do was to review the financial policies. Make sure you've read them and that you're familiar with them. That being said, for some reason, my voice does go in and out. So if it sounds a little froggy, I'm not a lifetime smoker. It's just I have laryngitis right now. So please bear with me. Brenda is monitoring the chat for us. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat window. If you know the answer to one of those questions, we appreciate that, but please do not answer. We will try to keep them so that I'll address it, or we will deal with it. But I know some of you are very knowledgeable and just want to be helpful. But it will get confusing if we've got answers coming from multiple people in the chat window. On this call, we have our national president. We have myself. If you've not met me, I'm Julie Straw. I'm the finance chair of the National Finance Committee. We have most of the Finance Committee, I believe, on this call again, too. We have Carrie Beck, our National Financial Secretary. We have Jackie Ransom, who's our National Treasurer, and then several members of our Finance Committee, our past National President, Ann Parker. I think I saw Lorraine Kameyer on here as well as Nancy Brecht. I didn't see if Jennifer Rowe was on here or not. If I miss you, it's just we have over 100. We've got 175 participants here today. Let me clear my throat. Excuse me. Let me switch to sharing the screen. Let me see what we can do here. We'll give you a nice, there we go. Share that. I will switch to, tell me if you're seeing a nice scenic overview of someplace. That'll be fine. What I want to do is start with this financial timeline that was in your handouts. Let me bring it over here to this screen for you. I'm going to pop it up here. We developed this timeline to give you guys a reference point so that you can kind of help keep track of what's going on with your chapter so that you have a point of reference. Hold on just a second. I've got glare from the afternoon. Oh, I can't see my own screen. There we go. Okay. Some of you are new to this position as financial officer. Your duties kind of got tossed in your lap. And so you didn't know much about it until chapter elections were held. And then all of a sudden you're looking for transition documents and that type of thing. Maybe you're not sure if your chapter has standing rules or not. This checklist, this chapter financial timeline kind of gives you an overview. So we will reference that from time to time. But at this point, I want to go back to just an overview of fiscal responsibility. So We've had this PowerPoint presentation. Basically, it's available on the website. Everything that you were given in a handout is on the national website. Coming from IRS way back in 2008, they're encouraging active and engaged board, believing that it's important to the success of a charity for its compliance and its adherence to applicable tax law requirements. So whether you're a chapter president, financial officer, or just merely serving on the board, or members trying to discern what your board is doing, involvement is crucial at this point. Governing boards should be composed of persons who are informed and active in overseeing the charity's operations and finances. And I need to stress that if the board tolerates a climate of secrecy or neglect, then it does raise concern as to whether the assets are being diverted to private benefit or if they're meeting the chapter's mission. So you want to make sure that with clarity and transparency, your financial records are made available, not only to your membership, but to the public if they ask. As financial officers, you have fiduciary responsibilities. You need to exercise a high standard of responsibility, of kindness, of being able to explain what's going on with the chapter finances, to make sure that you're not only responsible, but that people have trust in you, that you are looking out for the finances, not treating them like it's your own personal expense account, for lack of a better term. Fiduciary duties are legal obligations. There is a duty of care. You need to take care to, let me move this over here. There we go. You need to take reasonable care in making decisions. That means you have to be adequately informed, and you avoid hasty decisions that have not been researched or discussed. One of these things that it'll be tied to specifically is the budget. We'll discuss that in detail a little bit later here. That's kind of your point of reference as to whether you should be doing something or not, and whether it's transparent in that your membership knows what you're doing, what you're buying, what you're being involved in. There's also a duty of loyalty, that you should be acting in the best interests of the organization. Should a conflict of interest arise, you just need to bring that to the attention and say, I need to abstain from this vote, or this is something that I'm very passionate about, but I may not be objective. So what I present needs to be taken with that in mind, so that your members are not put off and they're not afraid to ask you about what's going on or some program that might be being promoted and discussed at the chapter level. You have a duty of obedience, and that means that you need to act in accordance with the mission of the organization. You cannot violate our governing documents, federal, state, or local laws, and you cannot ignore wrongdoing or choose not to get involved. If something's taking place in your chapter, extreme example, someone says, well, we agreed at our meeting we need to go buy this. Let me just take your debit card and I'll go get it and I'll bring the debit card back to you. That's not allowed in the governing documents. The financial policies say that you have two holders of debit cards, the treasurer and the financial secretary. That does not mean that they ever hand it off to somebody else to go use it. They do not give the number out for somebody else to charge something on an online purchase. So the main thing is, sometimes people will come up and say, well, we've always done this. Just because something has always been done does not set a precedence if it's wrongdoing or it's against our financial policies. So just be aware of that. It's kind of like if that's the way we've always done it, it's a matter of, well, now's the time to be doing it correctly. So just stand your ground, realize that if you're the financial officers, you have the financial duty of care, loyalty, and obedience to the rules and mission. The board has an affirmative obligation to act. Okay. So yes, this is serious stuff.
You say something.
Several chapters and national level will have a directors or officers insurance policy along with their property and liability, general liability insurance, which basically guarantees that should there be any accusations come against the chapter, someone says you guys have misappropriated funds, you're not releasing your financial information to the public when they ask, that type of thing. The insurance policy is there. But the thing is, that's another level that you would be telling the insurance company, yes, our financial officers were duly elected. They did their training, their required training. They know, they're familiar with the organization's financial policies. So it's just a matter of, for you, fiduciary responsibility, you want to make sure that you've got financial control over the chapter finances. That's going to involve double entry accounting. There were accounting software programs in the past, such as Quicken, or even, excuse me, some ledger sheets that would merely keep lists. They would be a one entry. There was no way to balance. It came out of this account and it went into that one. So double entry accounting is a method that most software uses now. We encourage the use of QuickBooks Online, and I'll go into that a little bit more detailed later. We do encourage segregation of duties. In the financial policies, it specifically states that income and recording of income is done by the financial secretary, and she's responsible for generating the financial reports for your chapter. The treasurer is responsible for writing the checks and for getting that second signature, which means she produces the receipts. Both financial officers will see the receipt for the expenditures. Okay. Most things will either go by a chapter vote, or if they're already in your budget, maybe the chapter president, or at least both financial officers will see those expenses and approve them before those checks are written or those payments are made. So there's a segregation of duties to protect you. These are not just a bunch of rules to make your life difficult. It's for your own protection should any accusations ever come up about mishandling of funds. We also strive for transparency, which means that you're not going to hold everything and say, no, it's not your business. You don't need to know who these checks went, who the expenses went to. We just paid the event expenses. Let everybody know this is who we paid. This is what we paid them for. This is how much we spent. The transparency is key, particularly to some donors who want to make sure that their funds are going to support the mission that they're donating for. And reporting purposes. We want to make sure this financial training is basically meant to make sure that across the nation, all of our chapters are on the same page. A lot of you are very experienced in bookkeeping. Some of you are very timid at bookkeeping. And so what we're just trying to do is make sure that we have these discussions and that everybody's comfortable with, I'm doing it like everyone else is doing it according to the financial policies. And therefore, questions, if they arise, you've got other people to ask and they're not, looking at you like you did it. How? What did you do with that? So it all comes in consistent across the board. As I mentioned with the double entry bookkeeping, it's a method of recording financial transactions in which each transaction is entered in 2 or more accounts and involves two-way self-balancing posting. So total debits equal total credits. Segregation of duties is strictly one person is responsible receiving all the money, deposits and donations, and another person writes the checks. And there's a need for 2 signatures, for 2 signers. Some questions have come up in the past when chapters have told us, well, our bank doesn't require 2 signatures. It doesn't matter. Our financial policies do require 2 signatures. A lot of this is questions also arise. Does that mean a financial officer has to be at every event we have? What if we're at a parade and somebody comes up and offers us a donation? What do we do with it? Well, one, if you're not a financial officer, get it to your financial officers as quickly as possible, okay? So that the financial secretary can record it. The person, thank you note or card can go out, but that it's recorded properly in the accounting records. The treasurer can also make deposits, but again, that's an absolute exception, not normal course of business. It's just a matter if she's not going to be able to see the financial secretary for an extended period of time. She's right by the bank. She takes pictures on her phone or photocopies what it is she has, what the event was that she collected it from, if there was anybody else that counted the money with her, and she gets it to the bank and then gets the receipt and all that documentation to the financial secretary as soon as possible. For transparency, any member should be able to review and understand all financial transactions at any time. You want to make sure, let me back up here. You want to make sure that when we go through our financial timeline, it'll mention, according to policies, you need to report to your chapter membership at least quarterly. I would encourage you to do it monthly. You need to at least reconcile your accounts monthly. If you bring it to each month's meeting, then members can ask questions and you don't have to rack your brain about, oh, what did we do 2 months ago? What did we write that check for? But don't be offended if members ask questions and want to review what went into a certain expense or a certain event or a certain program. You want to view copies of the checks that went behind every deposit. They can view, the reporting would show that they can, keep clicking that they can view invoices and backup materials and the approvals for disbursement of funds. Under reporting, you want to be able to report to the members. You want to be able to report to your board, to a department if it's applicable, to national, at least on an annual basis, and to IRS. IRS, you have the 990, at least a 990N, if not a full form 990, depending on your level of donations throughout the year. The more you can stay up to date with your records, the easier it will be to accomplish all of this reporting. Let me back up here. When we talk about national, at the beginning of the, let me click back over here. At the beginning of the financial timeline, this guy, it talks about review chapter standing rules, if applicable, and confirm that they have national approval. So as soon as possible after your elections, you need to, especially if you're new into the position, ask your chapter, do we have standing rules? When was the last time they were sent to national for approval? Do they match with current policies? Okay, let me get back over here. I'll try to stay on track. Okay, now how do we accomplish all this? It takes teamwork. You need the active participation of every single officer to make sure they're getting the receipts, program expenses, that type of thing to you. You need to develop policies and procedures, which pretty much you can go by the financial policies that we've got. Very few chapters need their own standing policies and procedures in addition to it. Some have developed what they call best practices, just to kind of like give additional little caveats but none of those go against the national level financial policies. But you basically want to make sure that you know how donations are handled, how membership is handled, how membership reimbursement is handled, that type of thing. Oversight, it requires the active participation, again, of every single officer. You want to make sure your board will respect and your membership will respect what they're able to inspect. When you get things set up, you need to make sure that you have a chart of accounts. This outlines your type of donations, your restricted donations, your membership dues, your store income, that type of thing. If I hop to, will I be able to find it quickly? Hold on a second here. Trainee chart of accounts. This should be it. In the number 11 handout that you have is actually a chart of accounts. Our financial secretary will go through that a little bit more for you. You're going to make sure that you have things, your bank accounts listed. You're going to make sure that you have your income and expense items, and you're going to make sure that you've got your other, any, not necessarily liabilities, but you may have liabilities if you're sending like membership dues to department or national. You're going to make sure you have your normal vendors set up. If you have purchases that you normally make, as far as supplies, shipping supplies, maybe Ship Thrifty is one of your vendors for your postage if you're sending out care packages. If you're renting a storage unit, your storage facility will be one of your vendors. In as terms of processing deposits, you're going to want to make sure that you record by type, that you make copies of all checks, and that you attach the bank receipt to your copies and file by date. Now, I want to clarify that some chapters actually make 2 copies of the checks. One set is given to the corresponding secretary to send contribution acknowledgments. When we talk about processing deposits and recording by type, you're going to have donations, you're going to have membership dues. Maybe you have a chapter grant from National. I would encourage you all to apply for those. So you want them segregated so that you know what kind is coming in. Some chapters are now doing, they're saving themselves a trip to the bank. They're doing mobile deposits because they have a mobile app on the phone, which therefore you take a picture of the check and deposit it directly through. The thing is, you need to still, on that check or on a separate piece, you need to note, this is what the check was, this is when it was deposited, and this is what I recorded it to. There are timelines as to how long you can keep the physical check in your possession. Carrie Beck will have, I think she's got that at the tip of her tongue, how long those are supposed to stay in your record. So you're back to where if you can scan it or make a copy of the check, attach it to the deposit slip that you put in QuickBooks, that's your easiest method of maintaining records of these things. Processing disbursements, it requires a disbursement request form. You will also see, if I can get to it wherever my screen went. There is a reimbursement request form. You will either need, if someone is asking for a reimbursement, you want to make sure that they submit this or at least have detail on their receipts to where everyone is seeing what it is, what the amount of the purchase that they're being reimbursed for, what was the purpose of it. And then down here, you can match it up with either a budget item or the president saw it, at least the financial secretary, because this is going to the treasurer. You want to make sure that you've got that documentation in there. Let me admit somebody else that's waiting out in the waiting room. There we go. You need some method. Somebody can't just hand you a receipt and you're looking at it like, this is a grocery receipt. What is this for? Oh, well, I bought, remember you guys told me I could buy things. The membership said we were getting the case lot sale at the local store and we were buying all these canned goods to put in the care packages. Okay, but I need your name. I need what it's for. I need what you bought and the total amount to be reimbursed. And then you need to look at the receipt to make sure there's not personal items on there that shouldn't be included in the reimbursement. So just be thorough, look at your receipts, make sure what you're dispersing or reimbursing for. Obtain your proper approvals. That involves comparing to the budget. You're going to prepare and record the check. You're going to file the form and the supporting documentation in date order in your records. We're going to look at options for this. QuickBooks Online has, we encourage QuickBooks Online because you can have up to the basic through TechSoup. You have an admin fee. TechSoup.org. If you're not registered with them, please do so. They have reduced fees based on grants and donations from large organizations to make software and hardware available to nonprofits. You can get QuickBooks Online for an admin fee through there. I believe the lowest unit has 5 users, which would give your financial secretary and your treasurer constant access to the accounting records. And you can give viewing rights, view-only rights to members of your board, particularly your national president, maybe your first VP, in case she needs to see something. But ideally, it simplifies life and reporting. If you're in a position in a chapter where you simply have no one that feels comfortable doing the ongoing bookkeeping, okay, they would still have a responsibility to oversee the deposits and the recording of them and the check writing. They would need to do the check writing, but the actual bookkeeping portion, if your chapter finances allow, they could hire a local bookkeeper, but that does not absolve the financial officers of their responsibility. They still need to be the one that says, this is what this deposit was for. This is the documentation for it. This is what this disbursement is for. This is the documentation for it. Okay. So in some ways, having a local bookkeeper will not simplify your life. It'll be easier to just get training that any member of the finance committee or our national financial officers can go through with you. On the 24th of this month, they will be conducting QuickBooks Online overview training for you. There are numerous tutorials on YouTube to go through QuickBooks Online. It's not as hard as some people make it out to be. So you just kind of like need to swallow hard and go, I can do this, and work through it. Paper-based systems will work if everything's properly documented. Okay, but we're kind of moving past the day of and age of keeping paper-based systems. You, as I mentioned, you can utilize the services of a local bookkeeper, maybe even if you have them help look through things if you're running into troubles on reconciliations. But actually, ladies, these things, I'm confident that all of you can do what needs to be done to keep track of your chapter finances. So help is available. We have over 200 chapters. You can contact a sister chapter. Your department will have resources. National definitely has resources available through training videos, like I said, through our financial officers and that type of thing. So I want to leave that discussion for a moment, and I want to launch into, I'm going to cough. Hold on. Excuse me. I feel fine. I don't know where my voice went or where the cough came from. Let me go into budgeting, because budgeting kind of sets the stage for everything else. Hold on just a second. Carrie, I'm going to ask you to give the financial secretary section.
Yes, ma'am. Hi, everyone. How are you? Let's go. I've got the policies and procedures. I'm going to share my screen with you. Oh, I don't think I can. Hold on one second. Okay. Maybe. Is it share? Can someone tell me if it's sharing? I'm sorry.
Yes.
It is. It is.
Okay. Thank you. I can't see it. So,
It is. Can you make it bigger?
did that work?
Well, so that sidebar, can we get rid of the sidebar? Maybe that will help.
This?
The two that are on the side.
It is not letting me.
It was bigger before, Carrie, so whatever you just did, make it go back.
Click on your percentage up there.
At the top.
Yeah, at the top.
Just hit your plus.
I'm not seeing it. I'm sorry.
Up at the top where it says 1/2, and then it has a dash and it has 100%. Just make it bigger. Then you can, if you make the percentage like 200%, not that big, but
I literally do not see it on my screen, Brenda. I'm sorry. I've got, for some reason, there's two screens up also, so I am struggling on my end.
Well, everyone has a
Oh, there
copy
it
of
is.
all,
Thanks.
everyone has a copy of all that.
Did that
there
work?
you go.
Yep,
There you
that
go.
All
You
of a
got it.
sudden, the bar at the top just moved and disappeared, so I'm not quite sure what happened. I didn't touch it.
I made it bigger.
Thanks. You're the best. This was handed out at convention. The only change that we really made on this was under responsibilities. It says hold a debit card for approved purchases. That is, the financial secretary can make approved purchases in the absence of the treasurer. I think that was it. The only other change that was made, that was it on this page. There's a copy of a W-9 that I also provided you. I know that some chapters struggle a little bit with the W-9s and making them. I did have it up here. Can everyone see that page? Okay, so you're going to type Blue Star Mothers of America Inc. in the top in number 1, and then in number 2, you're going to put your chapter name. You're going to check the box other. You're going to write nonprofit. Then 5 and 6 is all of your chapter's information. When you go to part 1, make sure that that is your chapter's EIN number and not nationals. Your financial officer will sign and you'll date. We always do one at the beginning of the year so that we have a new one for any of our people who donate who want a copy of this. Also, there was a new chart of accounts that will be uploaded, if everyone can see it on my screen. All of your bank accounts need to be listed here. That includes your PayPal. You have to reconcile your PayPal accounts. You've got all of your expenses. So you have a parent account, management general, and then all of your sub accounts will go under there. So when you're entering, you're not going to use your parent account. You need to make sure it's in one of your sub accounts. All of the expenses, when you do this, make sure your expenses are all capitalized, and then your income would be lowercase, or vice versa, but it's just easier to find because otherwise you've got duplicates of income and expenses. So you want to make sure that you can pick them out. So like we go down here into the income and you'll see they're all, they're lowercase. There are a few things that QuickBooks will not let you remove, like uncategorized expenses. So you just put a DNU for do not use next to those. And this will be kind of your outline for your chart of accounts going forward. Of course, fundraiser 1, that's just an example. You'll name it whatever your fundraiser is. Then you have a copy in QuickBooks. You can do your own budget in QuickBooks. There is a budget tool under the settings where you can go in and you can put everything in, and then you'll run your report every month and it will do your budgeting for you to tell you where you are. So you have an idea of what your year looks like, what you're going into for the next few months, and then you'll be able to compare it year to year. Screen, let's go. Oh,
Do you
there we
want to
go.
go over the budgeting one so I don't cough all the way through it?
You want me to go over the...
I can put the budgeting PowerPoint. Well, of course, my voice is fine now, and it's not coughing. I'm not coughing. Go ahead. You can finish.
You want me to read? You're going to read it? You're good? If you need me
No,
to
I
take
think I'm
over, you
good.
can... Huh?
I'm good. It's just if I
Okay.
start coughing again like that, just take over. I don't want to
No
scare
problem.
people. I'm not dying here. I just get on coughing fits.
I understand. Here's your profit and loss. This is a year-to-date profit and loss. As you can see, you're going to, when you submit it to compliance, a lot of you get back, you've got a negative. So if you have a negative in any of your income, that means you've most likely put an expense in your income, and you just need to go back and put it in the correct place. And same goes with expenses. If you have a negative in expense, you most likely put your income in your expense. So we will have this example of the profit and loss up on the website also. And then here's your sample of your budget or your balance sheet. And I think that is all of mine, Miss Julie. And of course, I'm available. If you need me, just send me an email and we can make an appointment and we can do a online training if you need me, or go over whatever you need. I make myself readily available as much as possible for you guys.
Okay. She has mentioned the budgeting. So let me go back to sharing here, and I will pop you guys into the budgeting spreadsheet. Whoops, I'm not shared yet. That doesn't work if I don't share. Hold on.
Let me unshare. I'm sorry, Julie.
Oh, that's fine. I think I can take it. Yep, allow.
Okay.
There we go. We want to go to this one. I think we want to go to this screen. Here we go. Okay, it should say budgeting, nonprofit budgeting made easy. All right. And it can be easy. We can make anything real difficult, but it can be made easy. It is your chapter's GPS. It's your roadmap to get you through your year. It's a plan or a guideline. Basically, when you're creating a budget, you're going over what you've currently been involved in and what you think you may be involved in the future. This is kind of your wish list out there, what donations and support you think will be coming in, what expenses you think you're going to have to pay out. Oftentimes we will strive for a balanced budget. That's the amount of funds you expect to come in equals what you expect to spend. If you're sitting on a boatload of cash, then what you're going to do is you're going to evaluate your cash flow, the timing of when things come in and when it goes out. Okay. If you're sitting on cash at as you approach your year end, August 31st, but you have a lot of events coming up in the fall, then that may be a good reason to have those funds. Like if you're going to spend $3,000 in shipping out care packages within 2 months of the year end, that type of thing. But you want to be true to your donors' intent, and that is they gave you money to support the mission, not to just fill the coffers of the chapter. You're going to look at your cash flow, the timing of money coming in and going out, in compliance with Blue Star Mom financial policies. You'll see in section 4A4 that at the chapter level, the proposed annual budget should be prepared, taking the excerpts here, should be prepared and presented for membership approval by September 1 of each year. What this does is it helps the membership decide where they're going to go into the next year. Then you hold elections and the board steps in ready to hit the ground running, knowing where the chapter wants to go this year. Okay. This will avoid confusion. It'll avoid a lot of debate and potential discord when planning any and every event all year long. If that doesn't mean that you can't change things as they go, the budget does not change. If you have you have a donor that you didn't expect, blesses you with a large donation, and then the chapter membership can decide, oh, that'd be great, then we could help with such and such an event. Okay. You don't want to sit there and go, nope, it's not in the budget, we can't spend that. You take it to your membership, you have a discussion, you've given them the financial reports on a regular basis, you tell them this is how much cash we have, we had only planned on spending this much, but what does the membership want to do now that we have additional funds coming in? And you leave it up to the membership. The membership can vote to go over budget or to not completely spend all of part of a budget. But that needs to be documented in your meeting minutes so that when you get to the end of the year and you generate that budget versus actual that Carrie discussed, and you have these discrepancies back and forth, then you've got an answer for why you went over budget. Remember, we discussed that at the February meeting, and the membership decided we would have a sponsor a table at such and such veteran event or whatever. So you've got answers for this type of thing. Okay. When you're preparing your budget, you want to have readily available your chapter members. All right. Get input from all of them. You also want to have your most recent financial statements available, what your cash balances are. You want to have the previous year financial statements to look at. Some people are going to be new members. They're not going to know what you were involved in the last year or two. And this helps bring to mind, oh, yeah. Remember we met so-and-so at that event in May, and they offered for us to do that. And we thought, well, it's too much to do this year, but we want to check into that. So it gives you time to look into things that you might be able to help support in your community to extend your mission. You also want to make sure that you have a spreadsheet or lots of scratch paper and a willingness to listen and stay calm. Your members will come up with different ideas. Some of them will fit our mission, some of them won't. Be kind, be gracious, be patient, and just try to come up with the best options that fit your particular community and situation. Some chapters do have finance committees that can vet a lot of this information ahead of time. Other chapters merely it's on the chapter president and the financial officers to gather this information and kind of put forth ideas. Your board is going to have a lot of input for you as to where they would like things to go, because usually the board is what provides a little bit of continuity from year to year. But basically, once you have those types of information gathered, then you're going to decide how much do you have to start next year's journey. It's not going to work if you have very little money to start out and your first program of the year is very cash intense. So just kind of try to look at it as far as timing and when things are going to hit, when you would need to do fundraisers and that type of thing. Look at your mission statement. Determine what's important to your chapter. Not every chapter has the same goals. Some are very veteran oriented. Others are very active duty military oriented. Some work a lot with other veteran service organizations. So just basically look to see what impact your chapter wants to make in your community. When you're looking at building your budget, you're going to look at revenue, donations, and support. Okay, this basically comes in several forms. You're going to have membership dues. You're going to have general donations from individuals and businesses. You're going to have fundraising events. You may have United Way or CFC type funds. You may even be selling merchandise from your chapter, or you could be applying for grants, either from national or from local corporations. If you are expecting any restricted funds, you need to make sure you keep these separate. Please be aware as financial officers, if you get a check from somebody and down in the bottom memo corner, it says 2 ship care packages. That's a restricted donation. That means you need to make sure that you spend at least that much of those funds on your postage for your care packages. Now, if they put 2 ship care packages and you're doing we weren't going to do care packages this year, you have a responsibility to reach out to your donor and say, may we use this to support our mission for other programs we have, such as for active duty military or veterans, and get their permission. If they say no, you need to return that donation. If they say yes, then it goes in, it's not restricted anymore. You might want to have an email trail or something to that effect from them, that they're not limiting you to only using it to ship care packages. Watch out for your advertising. If you hold an event, if you have a table in front of Walmart where you're encouraging the shoppers to go in and buy things that you can ship to the troops, okay? That is, your advertising is an implied restriction that that the donor is going to place on what you receive. So make sure if your advertising says we're having a fundraiser, come join us for a meet and greet, and we're going to be raising funds to send delegates to our national convention. Okay, those funds will be restricted to help your delegates go to national convention. Okay, so I guess what I want to emphasize is just be aware and listen and look at your advertising for your fundraisers to make sure that you are not implying that that what you're collecting is expected to be restricted for a particular program. Let's see here. Come on, computer, go. In terms of expenses, you're going to have program expenses, supporting services, fundraising, and membership development. That kind of covers the gamut of what you're going to be doing. Program expenses help you fulfill your mission. Okay, those are going to be things such as care packages. How many did we send last year? We're talking building a budget. What are postage costs doing? What does it cost to put in here? When it comes up to this contents, that's when you're going to be kicking in to figuring out how many in-kind donations did we get to help fill these boxes. We will discuss in-kind donation reporting here in a minute, but keep track. If you do not get donations of goods to put in things, if you do not get donations of baskets to use for a silent auction or a raffle, then those are costs that you will have to compensate for by buying them yourself out of chapter funds. So it's very crucial that you keep track of in-kind donations as well as cash donations and expenses. Some other expenses for your programs may be whatever you have to honor your veterans, maybe Wreaths Across America, maybe Honor Flight, those type of things. You may also have Gold Star activities that you take. Oftentimes, some people will have a Gold Star event, particularly around Gold Star Mothers Weekend in September, which is right after the beginning of your new year. So you want to make sure that you have the resources to be able to put that on. Any new programs that people might have, chapter members or whatever might have asked, could we do this? Or maybe they went to convention and they heard an idea and they said, would we be able to do that in our community? You want to make sure that those things are all taken into consideration when you're building your budget. When you're looking at expenses as in terms of supporting services, this is operation or management of your chapter. On our national profit and loss income statement, and also on the chart of accounts, you will see National has broken things out as to management expenses versus other program expenses, that type of thing. The sample chart of accounts coming out of QuickBooks Online, we have put these categories at the beginning of the expenses and income, I guess is what I'd like to say. The supporting services are operation or management of your chapter, your annual commitments, your licensing, your registrations with the state or the city, any insurance you might be carrying for general liability, your VABS contribution that is due at the end of, as part of your compliance at the end of each year. Monthly commitments. Are you renting a storage unit? Do you need to rent the space you meet in for your meetings? Do you have paper, printing, postage for day-to-day matters? Does your corresponding secretary get regular reimbursement for the cards she sends out or the postage that she uses? Then you also have membership dues. If all of your members are not renewing online, then even new members may be coming in with an actual application and giving you a check. You need to send part of those dues to your department or to National. So that would be under that supporting services membership dues type thing. Also, if you have a website, you would have domain name costs, you would have hosting costs each year, and also the security associated with that. You would also have fundraising type expenses. You're going to have to look at what it costs to put on your events to raise money. Here in Nevada, we put on an annual Bunko spaghetti feed. So that's why you see pictures of Bunko and spaghetti here, because that's what we do. I know other chapters are big into golf tournaments and that type of thing. What you want to do is evaluate, check with your committee chairman, your committee members, and say, what does it cost? What do we anticipate? Do we need to have table decorations? Are we going to have a PA system? What do we need? Specific annual events, what are going to be your out-of-pocket costs? And what are you going to do on the income side to solicit community support? You're going to want to make sure, whoops, I got something right here on top of my deal here. Come back here. Come back here. Come back here. Where did it go? Where did it go? Oh, you may have joint events with other nonprofits. I would warn you to make sure, be super, super careful about who you're partnering with, how much are you expected to be involved in this event, and what are the funds for? One, you have to make sure it matches our mission. Two, you need to make sure who's in charge of the money. Three, you have to make sure that they are not merely using your 501c3 license to do something to promote themselves. Okay. So if you have any questions at all, shoot someone on the national board or the National Finance Committee a question via email and say, is it okay if we do this? Will this be all right? We'll be sharing the proceeds with whatever, and make sure that you've got the right authorizations in place. There will be times when people will say, oh, well, you guys can have control as a chapter. You can collect all the money, and then you just give so much of it to us, and then you can keep a certain percentage of it. But the give so much of it to us, you got to find out who the us is, okay? Again, it cannot run afoul of IRS regulations. You're not going to be giving money that's donated through your checkbook to a nonprofit, okay? You can pay contractors, you can pay expenses, you can hire people to do things, but you cannot give money to another organization that's not a nonprofit, okay? You're also going to be involved in maybe grant proposals. Some people are really good at grant writing, and they're good at finding those type of things, and so that might be an option for you. When you're looking through the expenses on the membership development side, you may be looking at vendor tables, at homecomings, recruiting offices, farmers market. Sometimes those things are free, and sometimes they cost $25 or $50 to set up a table. You just want to anticipate ahead of time what those expenses are going to be so that you're not blindsided. Okay. If someone comes up with something and says, oh, I know during the budget, we planned on being involved in this event. We didn't know it was going to cost this much. So yeah, we're going to go over budget. Take it to your chapter membership, have your membership vote on whether they still want to be involved in that event, or if they approve, and if they approve the additional funds. You may want to host a lunch and learn for your members. Do not throw a membership party, okay? Donors did not donate money to our mission to have us treat ourselves to a lunch, okay? So don't use the money on yourself. You can, if you're going to have a training session, getting ready for a big upcoming event, you can get your members together, make sure you have a place for them to meet. If you're doing membership recruiting and you basically say, we're going to provide maybe tea and just some light snacks, ideally, we would like that to be your moms just bring stuff and donate it. If you really think you need to make it nice for future members, you basically say everybody needs to bring a member, and we're going to be out in front of this other event, okay? That would be membership recruitment, okay? So that you could sit down and have a chat with a prospective mom. Be very careful of those things when you're feeding your own members, okay? Members pretty much need to be buying their own food, not out of chapter funds. With basic budgeting, you'll sit down at the computer or at a kitchen table. You will pull up whatever you've got from previous information, and you'll take all of your notes. You'll put it together, and you come up with your expected revenue and desired expenses, and here's the result. If the result is a positive number, you have a budget surplus. If it's a negative number, you have a budget deficit. And if it's everything you expect coming in and you figured out how to spend it all, that's a balanced budget, okay? It's revenue in, expenses out. This is your result. Your result is either positive, negative, or it comes out 0 as a balance. When you're looking at a surplus, you may want to plan more programs or expand the ones you have, build up safety or emergency reserve for savings. At the national level, I will let you know that our financial policies require that national have a cash reserve at August 31st of 50% of the budgeted expenses for the next year. The purpose of that is to make sure that we can successfully launch into another year before donations start coming in, so that we don't put ourselves in a financial bind. Okay. If your chapter doesn't need that big of a reserve, then don't have that big of a reserve. Okay. If you have a larger reserve than that, you need to ask yourselves why. Why do we need to be sitting on this money? If you have a deficit, you may need to trim back your planned expenses, or you merely figure out how to raise more money to another fundraising event, or maybe put someone in charge of contacting local businesses and seeking donations. Just figure out how to raise more money. Overall, you separate your needs from your wants, okay? And then you look at it and you say, is this plan reasonable and is it actionable? This is going to be your chapter's roadmap into the future, okay? You're going to figure out your start. This is the path, and this is what we get to at the end. You will start out with your funds on hand plus your expected revenue equals your available funding, okay? Minus your planned expenses equals your expected funds on hand at the end of next fiscal year. Always realize you're planning for the next year. Are you locked into this? No. Okay. You're going to run into detours. You're going to run into emergency situations. You're going to run into requests for help, or you're going to run into fundraising that just didn't go as well as planned. Okay. What it means is that your budget is your guideline. As your year progresses, one of the purposes of producing the actual versus budget results is so that you can see how it goes along. Okay. Are our expenses in line with what we expected? Do we have a lot of money left over? What was the plan? Do we have this money left over in this budget line item because we have something already coming up that we had already planned on? Okay. So make your comparisons. When you get to the end of the year, you're going to look at actual versus budget. You're going to figure out if you missed it by a mile. And if so, you're going to figure out why, so that your next budget is a little bit closer to what your chapter actually wants to do. Okay. So you're going to do that apples to oranges comparison. What came up? What didn't work? What did work? What can we trim? What can we expand? Okay. If you came close, your actual to your budget is close, congratulate yourselves, pat yourselves on the back, and then look for opportunities to repeat the process and do the same next year. Okay. At the end, you basically want to just say, okay, this is our chapter. This is what we're doing. This is where we want to go. This is what we want to do. And this is the plan. That way you don't have people coming in and saying, with brand new ideas, with no idea of what it's going to cost, and you end up with a lot of squabbles at your meeting. It's kind of like, that's a great idea. Come back to us with what it will cost to put this event on, what will be the benefit, and how does it match our mission? And is it going to be a fundraising event? And if so, what money will be coming in to help further our mission? And you can talk through these things and have them come back to you with more detailed information that will help everybody in that manner. Okay, Brenda, have we had questions come in on the chat?
Yeah, Rachel Morales and Jody Egan from Texas too wanted to have a clarification of what is considered a boatload. Sorry,
Boatload.
But she came back and said, your explanation of having a cash reserve to cover 50% of the upcoming budgeted year's expenses defines a boatload of money in the bank.
Okay.
So-
Okay.
Save your voice.
Yeah, save my voice. A lot of that is a case, ladies. If you're sitting on more money than what you would be spending in an average year, you're hoarding. Okay. Trust that the funds will come in from donors. Have your members be active in seeking donations from your community. Work with other VSO organizations. The additional funds will come. Don't just sit there expecting them not to.
And Andrea Norquist from New York 14 also asked, is there an amount that we should have in our account that is too much? So I think that goes along with the same line of explanation that you were just trying to give. So Andrea, I hope that answers your question. Debbie Creator from VA4 wanted to clarify CFC, but Beth Bohannon from MI 179 got it and she needs no further explanation.
Okay.
Lucy Acock from Kansas 5 wants to know if a location allows the group to meet there at no cost, but would normally charge a room fee, would that be considered an in-kind donation?
Let me look to see what I've got on my spreadsheet real quick here. In-kind or non-cash donations. Let me run over this real quick here for you. I believe I'm still screen sharing.
Yep, you are.
Let me pop this up here. This handout, you can go through in more detail on your own. It breaks down in-kind or non-cash donations. And I would call your mind to right here, this paragraph, non-cash or in-kind. Use any reasonable, I don't know why that popped up. Use any reasonable or method to determine the value of non-cash contributions reported. Don't report any donations of services, such as the value of donated advertising space or broadcast airtime, or donations of use of materials, equipment, or facilities. Okay, so if somebody is donating the space, you thank them profusely, and you keep sending them, thank you notes. Maybe you list them on your event flyer as one of your community supporters. Okay, when we send out care packages, we have a list of year-round support, and we list the storage facility that donated us a reduced cost of a storage space for the inventory of our goods and that we're sending out. So you might give them recognition in any promotional materials that you put out for your chapter, but you do not record the use of materials, equipment, facilities as gifts, grants, or contributions. Okay, does that help? That should answer that question.
Okay, one other one was, how do you store a remote deposit check?
How do you store a remote deposit check? Carrie, you want to answer that? Basically, I would say you take a picture of it and you attach it to the QuickBooks thing as documentation. Carrie, did you address how long to hold checks in your possession?
So it can depend on your state. Florida asks us to hold on to them for 90 days and then we have to destroy them for remote deposit and or the check scanners.
Right. And the purpose of that, ladies, is for your protection. If something would happen and you would lose those, then you've just given check, bank, routing number, and signatures to the thief. They can wash those checks and put them through. So the main thing is if you're using them for mobile deposit, you want to make sure, maybe you want to make sure until you've reconciled things, 90 days is more than thick and rich enough to hang on to those. And then just scan it and keep it as an electronic version in your in your records. Okay. If you need to run a photocopy of it, that's one thing. Keep that in your hard copy if that's the way you keep your chapter records, but shred that physical check that you got from the donor that you used as a mobile deposit. Don't hang on to those.
Julie, I have one more question. Kathy Schulte from Georgia 1. Why is option 3 the least favorable method to track in-kind donations? It seems the most detailed. I can't see what option 3 is.
Option 3 down here is the reason why excuse me. Whoops. And then might have lost my voice. There we go. The reason why this is the least favorable is because you are making strictly a list, and then you are at year end recording the totals as follows. Okay. It would be a lot easier, especially when you're reporting to your chapter membership on at least a quarterly basis, that they have an idea of seeing how much you've been receiving in-kind donations. This may give them also an indication, just mentally, of how much they still have, either at someone's home or in a storage facility or whatever, that you could send out. We sent out care packages in November, and the question immediately came up afterwards. We got some other names. They were saying, oh, these kids are deployed through May. And we said, well, we might be able to ship again in January or February. We'll have to look to see what we have on hand and if we need to seek more in-kind donations. So the thing is, maintaining a list like this is fine. You've still got to make it available. It's one of your financial records. I would suggest that you use option 1 or 2 and record it as it goes on. As it happens. Okay. And then all you need to do at the end of the year is just confirm that, yeah, we really do have this. These are not, if it's Girl Scout cookies or food items or whatever, then you just check expiration dates. You would write off whatever's obsolete. But if it's jackets or shirts or whatever, like for a stand down, you would have that list going on as you can. So I hope that kind of answers the question. Okay.
Julie, Carrie Beck has a question for you. Or
No.
Oh, I just wanted to elaborate on the checks. Just make sure that when you do the remote deposit, you do keep them for at least 14 days, because if the bank comes back to you and says it wasn't scanned correctly, they will give you the option to deposit it again. So just don't get rid of them too quickly. Otherwise, you're going to be out that money if it did not go in correctly.
Yes, very good.
Okay, Carolyn Diamond from PA10 is whose social security number is the responsible party on the chapter's account when it is set up? The original founding chapter president. I don't know what account is being set up. I don't know if it's the bank account or the IRS EIN. I don't know that. But
Okay. When you log into, let me address both of those. When you log into IRS, like when you're filing the 990, they require ID me or login.gov. That is your social security number, because they want to know the individual that is logging in to access any records. Okay. You will use the chapter EIN number for any business with IRS. But in order to get onto the website to be able to conduct business, they will say, who are you that wants in to conduct business for this organization? Okay. At the bank, they also will need to confirm who you are. You've got to provide proof of identity, probably your social security number and a driver's license. They need to know who is at their bank doing business, either depositing or withholding or taking out funds of this organization. So when opening an account, you again will use the chapter EIN number. That's what it gets recorded under. You may need to provide them your social security number and your driver's license number to prove that you are who you say you are, that matches your chapter president, bank signer's authorization. It matches your name on the minutes that say you were elected as a financial officer, or if your nonprofit is registered with your state and you give an annual list of officers, that you are the person that's listed as an officer. So I hope that kind of clarifies. You won't really have your social security number associated with the chapter. It's only associated with you being able to access as an officer of the chapter.
Michelle Bunting wants to know, yes, but what happens when you have a new president? Well, I answered her, each person needs to have their own ID.me account.
Yes.
As the financial secretary, 1 year it's going to be Susie, and next year, so she needs to sign in with her own ID.me account, and next year it's Brenda, and I need to have my own ID.me account.
That's correct. That's correct. Because those officers will change. And the thing is if things are tied, if the chapter record is tied to your EIN and to your social security number, that will cause conflict on the the subordination paperwork that National maintains in reporting to Internal Revenue Service as to these are new chapters, these are addresses. You have a responsibility to update each year when you file your 990 to confirm, I'm going to start coughing here, to confirm your chapter address, to make sure it's correct, and to make sure that EIN number is correct. Brenda, take over the call because I'm going to cough again.
Carrie, can I have Michelle Bunting get a hold of you, because they're having issues about that the only way they can see the past 990s is using the old president's ID.me account. And so we need to clarify that. Can I have her get a hold of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Michelle, I hope you heard that, but I will email. Okay. Gary. Vinsec at bluestarmothers.us. Okay. Next one. Okay, that's it.
Good. Okay, I want to quick go to, is Jackie on this call?
Yes, she is.
Oh, okay. I wasn't seeing her picture here.
She is.
Jackie, would you cover the treasurer's guide real quick here? As far as treasurer responsibilities and stuff, you may be muted.
Nope, I just unmuted.
Okay.
So I'm going to see if I can share my screen.
I can put it up here for you.
Okay. That'd probably be a lot quicker.
Yeah, and then, yeah, I'll just kind of try to follow your discussion through.
Okay. We're just going to look at the first page here a minute. I don't have a whole lot to go through, so don't get too excited that you're going to be here forever. I just want to reiterate a few things here, that the treasurer pays all the expenses and the bills, but they must be approved along with a chapter vote if it's not in the budget by the president and the financial secretary before you write that check. Also, do not sign blank checks. Don't sign any check that's not completely filled out. So cash withdrawals for like if you're going to have an event and you need startup cash, you can either write a check to the person who is responsible for the event. They can take that check to the bank and get the cash. Or the treasurer can go to the bank and make a cash withdrawal. But the thing you need to do is when you deposit all your monies after your event, make a separate deposit for the cash withdrawal. So the cash withdrawal and the cash redeposit should match. If the treasurer does need to make the withdrawal, make sure you communicate that with your financial secretary and keep an email going just to document all that. Then we're going to move to the last page, Julie. No, yeah, last page. I just wanted to talk about purchases for what types of purchases we can make and can't make. The one thing we cannot do is anything that benefits one individual person, even if it's a veteran or an active duty member. If it's only one person, we cannot do that. We can do a group. Like when we send care packages, we send out a whole bunch of care packages all at once, but we cannot send just one individual care package to one member when we're not sending a group. Does that make sense? I hope. If you have a veteran in need and say he needs a new refrigerator, that is also something we can't do. Because IRS rules state we cannot benefit any one individual. You can donate money to another nonprofit veteran type organization, say the VFW, and designate those funds for a veteran, and then the VFW can go buy that refrigerator. We cannot buy.
Let me interrupt here just a second. The difference there, ladies, is because the organization that you're donating to, if you basically say Homes for Heroes, well, they benefited that one family by building a home for them. That's true, but they have an entire program built around collecting donations and and they have a vetting process that applicants need to go through, and they do not discriminate as to who qualifies. They have their program, they have the qualifications, this is who it's going to benefit, and then they broadcast it broadly. They have a large group of potential applicants, and then they do the vetting process, and it may be awarded to one person, okay? If, as a chapter, you want to go through, jump through all the hoops of setting up a program by which you take applicants and you advertise it throughout your community and that type of thing, then there's additional information. I believe it's on the website. If not, it's in an old newsletter. I can get you a memo on how to set up a program. If you have certain things that you want to collect funds and you want to give wheelchairs to needy disability veterans, that's fine. But you need to do it more than just to one needy disabled veteran. You need to set up the program. You need to figure out how these veterans that are needy are going to find out about it, how they're going to apply, how they're going to be vetted to make sure they really need it, and when is it going to be awarded. And then you have to have a budget that goes along with this so that you know how many you can give out, and when you can say, okay, we've reached our budget for this year, we can not give out any more. So it is a process involved. And that's why when you're looking at something not benefiting just one individual, run those questions by your finance committee, by the National Finance Committee, or whatever. If you have a concern, could we really do this, or could we do that? Just think it through. Could the potential for other people coming up later saying, oh, well, you did it for Joe, and I think I qualify, could I do this too? And you go, oh, well, we don't really have a program for that. That's not what you want to be caught in, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay, Jackie, go ahead.
Well, I have Gretchen Smith and Betty Wharton from Ohio 15 asked, so we have several members who have children at bases throughout the U.S. Can we not send them a birthday box or a Christmas box?
Do you let your members at large and your community know that you have a budget for birthday boxes for stateside people. So that if somebody comes up and it's, Susie's neighbor, says, "Oh, that would be so sweet if you would send my kid a birthday box. He's going through a rough time and he's at Fort Benning or, whatever." Are you going to go, "Oh, well, yeah, I guess we could." I mean, you need to decide who is this going to go, who's this going to go to? Okay. Now, obviously, care packages and that type of thing, you want to make sure the anticipation is that the recipient is going to share with their battle buddies and with the other people on the base. Okay. So just be very, very careful. You don't want to tell someone, "Oh, well, no, it's only for members' kids that we're sending this to." Okay. So look at your public persona, look at what you're trying to reach with your mission and why you're doing it. Okay. So be very careful when you do that type of thing and just make sure that you make it available to people at large. If you run into somebody at a parade and they say, "Oh, my kid would really like to get a box," you need to know, is this in your budget? Is it a program that you can support? Okay.
The other thing you could do is don't use chapter funds for those birthday boxes.
That's true. It's very true. Moms
do-
could donate, whatever ladies
On
are
their
at your
own.
meeting can donate and put something together, and then and you can send it to them. It's very true. Go ahead,
Which,
Jackie.
I'm sorry, Barbara
And
Johnson
that-
from
no, some good questions. Good questions.
Barbara Johnson from MI 202 asked if we have more than one person requesting or needing a care package that is deployed, do we keep their names on a waiting list for the larger drive, or does that get processed? I don't know what you mean, but
I don't either.
I would say, I guess you would take it to your chapter membership and go, can we send a couple more boxes? How long are they going to be deployed for? That type of thing. That would be a chapter preference type thing. If someone's on a long deployment, like they're going to be gone 9 months to a year, and you're sending out 2 different care package shipments during that period of deployment, it would be up to the chapter as to whether they use the resources to go to someone who's already received a box from your chapter, or keep it strictly for people who've never received a box. So, discuss that among your chapter as to whether you want to keep names on the list on extended deployments and that type of thing.
And that does bring up the buying flowers for funerals. Say if you have one of your members has another family member that passes away, you cannot use chapter funds to buy flowers for that funeral. But you can have what some people call a sunshine fund, where members contribute money and that's kept completely separate from chapter funds. You can use it for buying flowers or providing a meal for somebody that's in need. The other thing we need to be very careful of is buying T-shirts and stuff like that for members using chapter funds. That's also not a very good idea. And I think that's all I have. So.
Thanks. I want to take, it's already 1:45. I think everybody has been very patient on here. That pretty much covers the financial training that we wanted to touch on for you. Budgeting is a big item, as you can see. We, let me get back over here to this financial timeline, wherever it is. I would just draw your attention to make sure that you balance and reconcile your accounts on a regular basis. close out your fiscal year as quickly as possible. Get the financial records uploaded with your compliance so that the reviewers have time to get back to you with any questions. File your 990 if you need help. Anyone on the finance committee can help walk you through that. These are, this is a time frame of when you should probably be doing this. You'll see in green, it says present chapter financials at least quarterly. You want to give them your profit and loss, your income statement that says these are the funds we got in and this is how it was spent. Your statement of activity, which basically says this is how much cash we got in the bank. This is the inventory we have on hand to sell or to use in care packages. And then your year-to-date versus budget as far as what is going on, what you have coming up as far as events and expenses that you can be anticipating. Make sure you get your 990 filed, submit your chapter's mandatory VAVS fee online, and then confirm that the financial portion of compliance is submitted. So you're going to watch for the email from your reviewers. We still have some chapters out there who are still going through financial review and trying to get their compliance caught up to date. So just check your emails. We're not trying to be mean or nitpicky. We just are trying to fine tune everything so that as a national organization, we're all presenting information the same to our donors and to the public. As you go through your year, this just has your monthly balance and reconcile. You know, take those reports to your monthly meetings. Your members can ask questions and you can plan future events. You're going to, these, like I said, the green lines are you're going to present at least quarterly. Excuse me. When you get into the spring of the year, you're going to start soliciting input from your chapters, from your chapter members and your committees as to what plans and do they see for the next year. And you're going to start pulling together an outline for your budget. You're going to work with your chapter board to develop a budget for the coming year, and you're going to present a suggested final budget to the board by June or July at the latest, so that you're ready to present it to your chapter for membership approval. Okay. You're going to want to make sure you have a list of what all your state filings are, when they should be submitted, if you need to give an annual list, that type of thing. If you have a Department of Taxation so that you have your sales tax exempt, on the national website, on the financial tab, I believe, you will see at the bottom state requirements, and there's a list of all the states. You can click on there, and that will at least get you started with making sure that you're registered properly in your state to conduct business and to solicit donations from the community. Okay. By August 31st, you've got to present your next year's fiscal budget to chapter membership for approval. Okay. And then you're off and running again. You're holding chapter elections and everything kind of moves on. So ladies, if you have submitted questions in the chat, like I said, this has been a recorded session, and we do print out the chat. So we will look at your questions and we will split them up among the finance committee and see if we can't get you answers. Ideally, you're all, confident that you can do this. We have faith in you that you can do this, and that 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 we're available for questions at any given time. If we may not get back to you in an hour or so, but we do read our emails on a regular basis, and we take inquiries at all times. Don't be afraid to ask something. We'll help you walk through what you need. So with that being said, I will ask our national president and our financial officers, do you have anything else to add to this training?
I do.
There we go.
I'm sorry, they weren't quick enough.
Yeah.
I sent personal emails to some people, but I haven't heard back from you. If I don't know that you're attending, you won't get credit for it, and you'll have to fill out a form. And so if I sent you a personal message, please answer it. Thank you.
Okay, Karen?
I was just going to remind, I saw a question on there about if they could print out the form. Everyone was sent every one of those handouts with the invitation for tonight's Zoom. So we appreciate you all attending. It's been another great turnout. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Carrie, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you for everyone attending, and just you can email me or call me if you have any questions and need my help.
Okay. Jackie?
I do not have anything to add. I just wanted to thank everyone for attending, and please, like Carrie said, reach out if you have questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're not scary people. We won't bite your heads off. We will explain everything as best we can and make it as easy as possible. The thing is, take notes of what you do. Start a binder for transition documents so that each financial officer doesn't have to reinvent the wheel for your particular chapter. The purpose of using the emails that are available through the national website, which basically would have finsec dot and your chapter number, like mine is finsec.nv3@bluestarmothers.us. The advantage of using those are for consistency throughout financial officers, because then you would know who sent in donations, who you had to track for things. You'll have vendor receipts in there and everything. You'll have the entire email history from prior officers in those email archive folders. So I would encourage you to get with the National Webmaster if you have not, and get the email accounts that are available to all the chapters for their chapter officers, so that you have some consistency. It'll make your transitions easier from office to office. So, Anne, do you have anything to add?
Do not. I thank everybody for coming tonight, and I also am available, the longtime member of the Finance Committee, and I think most everybody has my phone number. I'm always available to help you if I can.
Okay, I think that's it. I apologize for the coughing fits. Unfortunately, that'll be in the recording, but we'll see if we can't survive. And my voice came back, of course, at the end of the meeting. So thank you, ladies, for attending. By all means, if you didn't get your question answered, like I said, we'll copy down the chat, or you can email any of us. My email is financechair@bluestarmothers.us. So thank you, ladies. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and hopefully you'll have a productive year. Thanks. Goodbye.
Good night.